Hey, welcome back guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. Let's continue on with the video. When it comes to design, both panels are very similar except for the physical size and the LED diodes that are in the panels. Both panels come with a nice travel case, a pop-out softbox, and a grid. Both panels work with the Sidus link and can also be dimmed down to 1%. One of my favorite designs is the DC plug. Once you push it in, it actually self-locks, making it nice and secure. Also, these blocks do work with both panels, so no need to keep track which belongs to which. Instead of a yoke, you have this light stand adapter that is actually quite strong. It also has an umbrella mount hole, which is great if you want a quick and easy diffusion. Because these are lensed LEDs, the panels produce more of a spot beam instead of a flood beam. When it comes to output, the panels produce nearly the same results as a 60-watt cob LED, which is pretty bright. Now, the two panels in tungsten mode is actually very similar in output, but the P60C is noticeably brighter in daylight than the P60X. With this amount of brightness, you have a lot of room to use it in many situations with and without diffusion. In terms of RGB output, this is the brightest I have seen from a panel of this size and at this price point. You definitely won't be disappointed if color output is your deal. Now, I personally prefer to shoot through a 43-inch 5-in-1 reflector for a large diffused light. However, if you do decide to use the smaller included softbox, just know that you will lose 1 2/3 stop of light, and if you add the grid to it, you will lose 2 stops of light. To show you how powerful and useful these lights really are, here I am sitting 3 feet away from a window. These panels have no problems competing against the window from 5 feet away. Even if I put a diffusion between me and the panel, you're still able to have plenty of output to work with. Unlike the popular budget Neewer 660 panel, in this situation it is completely maxed out and it can't handle any more. Just to recap the color quality test, I basically dialed in the Kelvin. These are not custom white balances that I did before performing the test. And as you can tell, the daylight looks really good. And the tungsten, you'll notice that the skin tones and the reds do veer towards yellow, but that's actually just because of Panasonic's color science. They tend to like to go more towards yellow with tungsten. So in this specific test, these LEDs are performing exactly the way they're supposed to be. So what's the bottom line here? Why did I say in the beginning of the video that you should just spend the extra $100, get the P60C over the P60X? Well, there's actually 4 main reasons that I want to talk about, so you can kind of think of it as like $25 per reason. The first one is you get more output. Pretty self-explanatory. Number 2, you get more battery life, approximately 15 minutes more. I'm not exactly sure why the P60X uses up more battery power, but it is what it is. Number 3, RGB capabilities. Whether or not you know for sure you want to use RGBs or not, for the extra $100 or $25, if you will, just having it will come in handy when you least expect it. And number 4, because you have RGBs, you now have the full suite of lighting effects. So instead of just having a white strobe at different frequencies, you now have campfires, fireworks, the cop cars, the whole gamut for people that might need it. Now, when it comes to all the lights that I have reviewed, is there any light that's in this price class and this LED panel size, does any of them come close? No, they don't. This is simply one of the most powerful little LED panels I've seen in this price point. The closest competitor is actually a cob LED made by Godox that I've reviewed, and that is the SZ150R. It's got all the same features, but the 3 main differences is the Godox is $560 versus the Aputure Amaran P60c at $350. Pretty big difference. The P60C also outperforms in output compared to the Godox SZ150R in all categories. From RGB to bicolor, it's much brighter. And then number 3, the Godox, you can't use batteries with it. There is no battery ability. Whereas the P60C, you can use 2 MPF batteries and be on the go if needed. So with all that being said, which type of filmmaker or videographer should be thinking about purchasing a P60C? Let's break it down. First off, YouTubers, should you get it? If you're in a small little home studio like this, I'm going to say you probably don't actually need it because you're going to save a lot more money just getting a 60-watt cob LED, whether it's the Aputure Amaran 60D or you can get a Godox. It doesn't matter. You put a softbox onto it. Get a soft light for your key light if that's what you want. You're going to save some cash that way. And when it comes to RGB backgrounds and stuff like that, these are just really, really cheap. These are Pilot Flies, the original RX ones. Those do just fine splashing colors in the back. So when it comes to YouTubers at home, I would say probably you don't need it. If you're in a bigger studio setting though, you probably have more budget to do some more in-depth setups. But for the most part, I would say if you're in your bedroom, probably don't need it. It's overkill. Next up, if you are doing events, I would say yes, because if let's say you're a wedding videographer, these panels are small. They all have their own carrying case. You don't need a crazy C stand to hold them up or anything like that. Just get a nice basic stand, and these will last you for approximately 45 minutes at full blast with battery power. And in terms of their output, they're good. And if you want to get the party started, you can use your Citus link from wherever you are and say, hey, let's go to RGB party mode, or let's get some strobes going. So if anything, if you're actually working with a team of people, you might be able to give your second camera guy and be like, hey, could you change it to this right here? I feel like it's happening. And you can do it that way. So I would say for wedding filmmakers, this might be a really good toolkit for your reception. Next up is corporate filmmakers. For corporate filmmakers, I think this could be a very, very good part of your kit, or you could actually just use 3 of them and be done with it. And the reason I say this is because it is more powerful than a 60-watt cob setup. And if you do a 60-watt cob setup, you're going to have to get a softbox for each one, or probably about 2 of them if you want a nice soft light. And then if you want color in the background, you're going to have to do all this other stuff. You're going to make sure you have a C stand that's more expensive to be able to maintain whatever softbox you put onto it. So a 60-watt cob setup might actually come out more expensive versus if you get the P60C, let's say you get 3 of them. All you really need to do is get a couple cheap light stands, because you don't need the most heavy-duty one. And you can either hang 5-in-1 reflectors in front of it, or you can hang diffusion curtains in front of it and just have the panel blasting through it. And then your other panel, whether it's going to be a color splash on the backdrop or it could be a hair light, you just have a lot more options to craft a very specific look. And at the end of the day, I feel like with the interview setup, you're probably all trying to get more or less the same look. And I feel like these panels will do you a lot better in terms of giving you more options. For music video filmmakers, I would say this is a definite yes. So if you happen to be doing stuff outside, instead of all the panels that I have reviewed before that were cheaper and really didn't provide you as much output when it came to bicolored with RGB capabilities, this one is going to do you just fine. It's nearly the same size, a little bit bigger, but you get so much more power compared to everybody else. So if color is something you use in your music videos, this is a definite yes, especially with the RGB effects. If you are filming during the day, it's not going to be bright enough, but it might help you for certain shots. But otherwise, don't think of this as a key light. If you're inside for the music video and it's either dark or slightly lit from the ambience, these lights will also provide you some extra definition, so that if you need to just blast a little bit more light to get some shape on the person, this should do you just fine. And because you can use Sony MPF batteries and someone can literally just be holding the panel and directing the light for you on the go, these are going to be a really good, I would say, budget kit. Really run and gun. I would say yes, this is something you should be thinking about. Last up is narrative filmmakers. Is the P60C something you should be thinking about to add into your kit? And the answer is yes, but I know there's going to be a big toss-up, and it's like, should I get a cob LED or should I get this LED panel first? Which one? The answer is you eventually need both, and there's no wrong one to go with first. You can go with a cob first, that's totally fine, or you can go with a panel, that's totally fine. They're different tools, but honestly, at the end of the day, you're going to need both. In terms of arguing for the P60C, is it actually a good starting panel for narrative filmmaking? And I have to say, it actually is. You can diffuse it and still get a plenty of output shooting through a 5-in-1 reflector that you have to rig up. Or if you don't want to do it that way because you're in tight quarters, but you still want to get a soft light coming from somewhere, it's powerful enough that you can shoot it at the nearby wall that's out of camera and have it bouncing back. That is going to be fine as well. And last but not least, the RGB capabilities. You never know when you're going to need it. And chances are, if you're doing narrative films, there is going to be a couple scenes where you might need it. So that being said, in my opinion, yes, the P60C is more than enough for your first like major narrative light, and then from there you can fill it up with COBs later, or vice versa. There's nothing wrong here with choosing the P60C as your first narrative film light. And hey guys, that is it for this week, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you. It just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making reviews like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.